The idea that life would have been much scarier if the dinosaurs had survived is undoubtedly true. However, what if I told you that there once lived creatures on Earth that were even bigger, worse, and more ferocious? Hello friends, my name is David and you are watching Strange Things. From supersized serpents to sea monsters and bizarre creatures straight out of your nightmares, here are some animals that were even scarier than the dinosaurs. So, let's start our countdown. Number 12. Dunkleosteus. Dunkleosteus water dwellers are among the most horrifying animals that have ever existed, and Dunkleosteus is no exception. This vicious fish existed in the Mesozoic era, which scientists have divided into 3 periods, between about 245 and 66 million years ago. It is commonly referred to as the Age of Fish, and it lived during the late Devonian period, which was approximately 370 to 360 million years ago. This was long before the dinosaurs roamed the earth. The 26 to 32 foot long, shark-like Dunkleosteus, which lived during the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, had an armor-plated head. Despite its fierce appearance, Dunkleosteus had a face only a mother could love. You might be surprised to hear that it was missing 2 long bony blades that could snap and crush almost anything. I say almost anything because Dunkleosteus was not picky about food. It ate fish, sharks, and even its kind. Its fearsome fangs grew continuously and rubbed against each other, acting as self-sharpening shears. To give you an idea of how strong its jaws were, scientists have estimated that they could produce up to 8,000 pounds of bite force per square inch. The deadly weakness of Dunkleosteus was its excessive greed, which frequently caused dyspepsia. Since the fossils of this ancient beast have frequently been discovered next to partially or fully digested fish remains, you may be relieved to learn that Dunkleosteus is extinct. Number 11. Helicoprion. The idea of being in the sea with Dunkleosteus seemed terrible, but wait till you learn about the Helicoprion, one of the most perplexing fossil puzzles to ever plague paleontologists centers around this horrifying 20 to 25 foot giant fish, which dates back 270 million years. Strange petrified whorls of elongated teeth that resembled fossilized fruit roll-ups were the first thing to be discovered. After discovering that the peculiar fossils were a portion of a shark-like fish, Russian geologist Alexander Petrovich Karpinski named the species Helicoprion in 1899. His best theory was that the peculiar feeding device was affixed to the nose of this long-dead organism. However, the remnants remained mysterious. After more than a century of conjecturing, paleontologists' theories regarding the actual organization of the toothy world gave rise to a variety of strange images of sharks with spirals of teeth protruding from their lower jaws, dorsal fins, caudal fins, and even deep within their throats. The coiled tooth row filled the lower jaw in a buzzsaw-like formation as the fish aged, and new teeth continued to form at the back of the lower jaw while there were essentially no upper teeth to speak of. This theory was first correctly proposed in a 2013 study led by Leif Tepanilla from Idaho State University. The largest Helicoprion specimen ever discovered had a jaw that was 2 feet wide. Horrifyingly, paleontologists proposed that as the mouth closed, the toothy world twisted the teeth backward in a saw-like manner. So how did the Helicoprion grab and devour its prey? It's a huge pile of no-op. So thank God this deadly buzzsaw killer died extinct about 225 million years ago. Number 10. Terror birds. Fearsome birds. The fact that these prehistoric birds were dubbed terror birds by scientists should tell you everything you need to know about them. But I'll give you the rundown anyway. After a meteor destroyed ferocious dinosaurs like T-Rex and velociraptors, the terror bird rose to become South America's top predator for the next 60 million years, a title they defended. These 10-foot-tall creatures had T-Rex-like feet and a hooked beak that could kill a horse with a single blow. Their reign of terror started earlier than the current region of Central America. The majority of the mammals in South America were happy herbivores, providing the terror birds with an abundance of plant-eating prey to feast on without any competition. These swiftly moving creatures were equipped with a pickaxe-like beak, which they used to strike downward and fatally crack the skulls of smaller animals. Not only that, but their bony heads could act as a giant meat tenderizer, and they would have likely used their enormous clawed feet to kick the living daylights out of their prey. Makes you appreciate city pigeons a little more, doesn't it? During its 60-million-year reign, 17 distinct species in the terror bird family came and departed until they eventually perished altogether approximately 2.5 million years ago. Number 9. Platybelodon. The Platybelodon, an ancestor of modern elephants, had a strange jetting jaw that actually consisted of a pair of widened tusks, which are actually just modified incisors. What was the purpose of this bizarre tool, as animals don't waste energy developing worthless characteristics? This fantastical creature may look like it was created by an imaginative 7-year-old, but travel back in time between 8 million and 20 million years ago, and you'll see for yourself that the Platybelodon was once as real as they come. Though paleontologist David Lambert proposed in 1992 that they were also used as scythe-like weapons that could slice through thick vegetation instead of roaming shorelines, it was previously believed that their lower incisors were used to shovel, scoop, dig, and dredge soft vegetation in aquatic or swampy environments. Because these squishy spork-shaped appendages do not fossilize as quickly as bone, Platybelodon roamed over Miocene Asia, Africa, and North America, eating on terrestrial plants. It would grab branches with its stem and hack them away with those specialized built-in scythes. Actually, we're quite fortunate to have any knowledge at all about these strange creatures. Happily, their demise was very beneficial to us, even if they might not have represented a serious threat to humanity. If they were still alive today, it's safe to say that these animals nonetheless have some of the most bizarre mugs in history. They occasionally congregate in large quantities adjacent to or in rivers, which are ideal locations for quick fossilization. Number 8. Andrewsarchus. Even though there isn't a complete skeleton of an Andrewsarchus, expedition leader Roy Chapman found a portion of a skull from one of these vicious creatures that was found in Mongolia in 1923. It's hard to imagine anything with the name Andrew being more terrifying than a dinosaur. But this vicious creature proves otherwise. Because of its enormous fangs, Andrews concluded that the animal had to be a carnivore. He named the creature Andrewsarchus, the Mongolian sis, after himself. Interestingly, to this day, this is the sole specimen ever discovered that belonged to the fearsome species that once roamed Asia between 45 and 36 million years ago. This heavily built wolf-like animal walked on 4 short legs, had a long body and tail with hoofed feet, and a terrifying snout with large bone-crushing teeth. If you needed more reason to tremble in fear, paleontologists were able to piece together an impression of the rest of the animal's body during the Eocene era using information from its skull and its relationship to another bear-like prehistoric creature called Mesonyx. The result is a 16-foot-long and 6-foot-high vision of pure nightmare fuel. Andrewsarchus is the largest known meat-eating land mammal in history due to its enormous size. However, due to its limited fossil record, it was once believed that these hoofed creatures were more closely related to hippos and whales, both of which are members of the larger order of mammals known as artiodactyls. Whether Andrewsarchus was an active predator or just an enormous scavenger is debatable, but I wouldn't want to take my chances. Number 7. Titanoboa. To Titanoboa, if snakes terrify you, it might be a good moment to grab a fast snack. The largest snake in history, the Titanoboa, lived 60 million years ago during the Paleocene epoch in the swampy waters of what is now Colombia. Measuring nearly 50 feet long and weighing an incredible 2,500 pounds. This enormous serpent was 10 times heavier than the green anaconda that rules those same stomping grounds today. Sadly, though, Titanoboa never competed with the T-Rex, which lived only a few million years after the end of the dinosaurs. Titanoboa ruled over the vast swampy jungle where everything was hotter, wetter, and bigger than it is today, continuing the theme of bigness. Titanoboa was so big that it practically defied the laws of physics. You see, all living things have evolved to abide by the laws of gravity. The only reason absurdly large creatures like the 100-foot blue whale can exist is because giants are less affected by gravity in the sea. Scientists believe that Titanoboa must have taken advantage of this to reach its enormous size. Though it resembled a modern-day boa constrictor, the creature was so enormous that it probably couldn't move around on land and must have spent most of its time in the water, behaving more like a water-dwelling anaconda. Imagine taking a dip in the river and then noticing the skin of one of these massive creatures on the nearby bank. If you're wondering what Titanoboa consumed, the simple answer is anything it laid eyes on. The enormous snake was an ambush predator, using its incredible strength to subdue its prey. It is unknown why or when Titanoboa went extinct, but just think of the devastation they would do to us little people if they hadn't. Titanoboa was a heavyweight hunter who generally targeted large reptiles, going for enormous turtles and even crocodiles. Number 6. Jaekelopterus. The now extinct group of eurypterids, also known as sea scorpions, which belonged to the arthropod order, were mostly small creatures about the size of a human hand. With the exception of the terrifying Jaekelopterus, which lived around 460 million years ago during the Silurian period. This spiky sea scorpion grew up to 8 feet in length, easily making it the largest arthropod ever known. To get a better idea of what it looked like, imagine those face-huggers from the Alien franchise scaled up to enormous proportions with the ability to swim thrown in. With its paddle-shaped body segmented like a strange horseshoe crab, but with significantly more movement underwater due to its oar-like back legs. The enormous Jaekelopterus was able to swim quickly after its prey in addition to its numerous specialized appendages. This marine creature also had enormous spring-loaded claws that it used to snatch fish as they passed by. A fossilized spike claw measuring an incredible 18 inches across was found in 2007. There's no doubting that this enormous sea scorpion could have crushed your skull with its grasping claws if it had been alive today. Like an almond, the Permian extinction, which occurred between 299 and 252 million years ago, and destroyed more than 96% of all marine life on Earth, ultimately brought the era of the European, including the fearsome Jaekelopterus, to an abrupt end. Number 5. Phoberomys pattersoni. Patterson's Phoberomys. You might have observed that a lot of prehistoric animals were really just giant, souped-up versions of some of the species that are still around today. Well, allow me to present to you Phoberomys pattersoni, possibly the most terrifying illustration of that theme. The remains of these disgusting rodents have been found at various locations in Argentina, Brazil, and Venezuela over the years. Although their closest living relative is the common guinea pig, these real-life ratzillas were the largest rodents to have ever walked the earth, measuring around 10 feet long with an additional 5 feet of tail to boot. They resembled modern-day capybaras in appearance. Examinations of these grotesque ratzillas' skeletons reveal that, despite their size and weight, they likely weighed about 800 kilograms, or about the same as an American bison. Despite being plant-eaters, Phoberomys pattersoni's massive hind limbs and slender front limbs suggested that it likely rested on its haunches while feeding, using smaller forelimbs to gather plant material. Phoberomys also had a deep-set jaw and sharp front teeth that were adapted for their gritty herbivorous diet. These enormous rodents were capable of causing some serious damage. Phoberomys towered over wetlands and nearshore swamps if you were to cross them. They inexplicably vanished about 8 million years ago. So the next time you squirm at anything the size of a mouse on the street, just remember it might be much worse. Number 4. Hallucigenia. Hallucinations. Paleontologists sometimes struggle to identify the appearance of extinct animals, particularly those that have been gone for 400 million years. However, the case of Hallucigenia proved to be more challenging than most, with scientists studying this thumb-sized worm for over 50 years before they were able to pinpoint its head's location. Take a look at this completely absurd creature to understand what I mean. In the Burgess Shale of the Canadian Rockies, a strange half-inch long fossil was discovered by British scientist Simon Conway Morris in 1977. It was previously categorized as an annelid worm, which includes leeches, 66 years ago, and earthworms, but Conway Morris disagreed, believing that the bizarre creature could actually walk on several pairs of stilt-like spikes while it also had numerous tentacles sticking out of its back. He named the creature Hallucigenia because it was so absurd it resembled something you'd imagine during a bad trip. However, in 1991, researchers Lars Ramsgold and Hazegwan turned Conway Morris's theory upside down, literally revealing that what he had identified as tentacles was actually the creature's legs, flipping the model and likely serving as its defense. It wasn't until 2015 that further analysis was carried out by Martin Smith from the University of Cambridge using an electron microscope, and samples from the Burgess Shale showed which end was the worm's head, complete with a large smile of teeth that were grinning. Although scientists are unsure of the specific hallucinogenia that was consumed, the teeth surrounding the worm's mouth were likely used to suck food and water into its stomach. Despite the fact that the hallucination was tiny, there's no denying that it is extremely unsettling. Number 3. Arthropleura. Stromatopleura anthropleura, an 8.5-foot-long millipede that roamed the Earth during the late Carboniferous period, between 359 and 299 million years ago, is one example of a fearsome creature that millions of years ago could grow to insane proportions. Although it's likely that Arthropleura was herbivorous and fed on dead plant matter, like modern millipedes. There's no denying that it was still pretty darn terrifying. Discovered fossil trackways suggest that these massive millipedes could move at a speed, undulating hundreds of enormous legs with an unnerving rhythm and swerving to avoid trees and other obstacles. It's extremely unlikely because Arthropleura were the largest land invertebrates known to science. The leading theory is that prehistoric insects became so large because they benefited from the excess oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere during the period when Arthropleura lived. The rise of vast lowland swamp forests led to atmospheric oxygen levels of around 30%, which is almost 50% higher than current levels. These massive insects went extinct soon after the end of the Carboniferous period when the moist climate began, drying out dramatically, reducing the rainforests that were their natural habitats. Thus, the next time someone disputes the existence of climate change, show them this incredibly bizarre, enormous millipede. Number 2. Mosasaurus. The Mosasaurus is a great marine reptile that is closely related to snakes and monitor lizards, but that doesn't make them any less terrifying. If you're a fan of the Jurassic World movies, you may already be familiar with the Mosasaurus thanks to this awesome scene. Though no complete specimens have ever been found, paleontologists surmise that Mosasaurus likely reached lengths of 45 to 50 feet and weighed about 5.5 tons, which is larger than the average city bus and heavier than 2 adult rhinoceroses. This enormous warm-blooded carnivore swam the seas around the globe some 80 to 66 million years ago. Take a closer look at this monster, and you'll see that the captured Mosasaurus from the Jurassic World films has 2 additional rows of gruesome teeth within its massive jaw. You may assume that this is just another instance of a classic film producer distorting the facts to create dramatic impact, but no. Because of their resemblance to snakes and monitor lizards like the Komodo dragon, Mosasaurus had pterygoid, or fanged, teeth inside their massive maw that were anchored to bones in the roof of their mouth. These teeth, which were embedded in the fleshy tissue of their gums, made it easier to grip and swallow their prey underwater. It's also possible that they had enormous forked tongues. The stomach contents of Mosasaurus have revealed that they consumed ammonites, bony fish, sea turtles, other prehistoric reptiles like Plesiosaurus, and even seabirds. Their fossils have been found on every continent on Earth, including Antarctica. They even became the dominant marine predators during the Cretaceous period until the KPG extinction event that ended the dinosaurs' extinction. However, we may never know for sure because soft tissues rarely fossilize.